Crowd. My name is Sherwood Neese. On this week's episode, I want to highlight how regulation crowdfunding is creating over 100,000 jobs across the United States. But first, let's dig into the weekly numbers, the top offerings, and the online investment index. It seems as if we've settled into our new normal post the March 15th changes by the Securities and Exchange Commission, which increased the amounts issuers can raise from $1 million to $5 million. The online investment index moved 5.9 points, or 1.28% over the prior week, ending at 462.7. So far, for April, we've seen $26.2 million committed by over 27,000 investors to 671 open offerings. As of April 16th, there have been 55 new offerings for the month. Historically, April has averaged 57 offerings, so we're almost at the halfway, we're almost actually beating that for the month of April. We anticipate there to be about 110 new offerings altogether by the end of the month. This would make April a strong month for new offerings, but definitely not one of the leading months over the past 12 months, because there have been about 6 offerings or 6 months with new offerings greater than 110. The top 5 companies that drove this week's index were, first, Fanbase. It's an Atlanta-based new Facebook alternative subscription service that is helping users monetize their content and earn revenue. Users can grow their following organically with the ability to follow each other for free on the platform, with the option to pay for a subscription to exclusive content, helping users monetize their followings unlike on other platforms. They raised $780,000 this week for a total of $2.15 million. That's an average investment of $1,700. Tuttle Twins is next up. It's a Provo-based Utah company. It's the first cartoon series to teach kids enduring principles of freedom, economics, and government. They raised $486,000 last week from 1,122 investors. Total amount raised to date is $849,000. Next, we have Sun & Swell, a Santa Barbara-based online plastic-free health food store where you can buy high-quality organic pastry staples and snacks in packaging that turns back into soil within 3 months. Wow. They consider themselves a cross between Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. They raised $417,000 from 213 investors this week. Fourth, we have Sashbag, a San Diego-based company redefining the women's handbag. They raised $277,000 this week from 257 investors. And finally, the 5th company to raise the most last week is Drink Monday. They're a Carlsbad, California-based non-alcoholic distillery that, get this, makes products called Monday Gin. It's a zero-alcohol gin made with carefully selected botanicals and natural ingredients. This is amazing. You can now make cocktails and avoid the hangover. I mean, how cool is that? They raised $259,000 last week from 138 investors. Sun & Swell, the Stash Bag, and Drink Monday all launched last week. Interestingly, Sun & Swell had the highest average investment of $1,958 per investor, followed by Drink Monday at $1,881. Keep in mind the average investment across the industry seems to be about $1,000, so this shows more interest in these offerings than the average. So there we have it, social media, cartoons, organic food, apparel, and distillery. Wow, what another amazing week of unique offerings on regulation crowdfunding. I'll point out again, with the exception of Fanbase, these are all industries which usually are not in the sweet spot of venture capitalists. They aren't necessarily VC capital intensive cities, located in VC capital intensive cities, I should say, and therefore rely on this alternative form of capital, and in many cases, their customers for cash to grow. Now, I just want to take a little time to give credit to Washington, D.C., Congress, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. Access to capital and investor protection are 2 of the main pillars of our securities laws. There needs to be the proper balance when it comes to allowing investors to deploy money without being defrauded. Good news is there's been no fraud when it comes to regulation crowdfunding. That's as reported by the Securities and Exchange Commission. But because of this legislation, investors now have the ability to back businesses they believe in. So if you look at the use of proceeds that is available on these offering pages, you'll see that one of the things that tops the list usually is hiring new employees. Now, while most successful crowdfunding offerings will hire direct employees, according to a study by Paychex, which is one of the nation's largest payroll providers, for every one direct employee that is supported by a company, there's about 7 indirect employees that are supported. Think of these indirect employees as your FedEx delivery person, your HVAC support person, any of these local providers that provide support and services or products to a business. If you add these together, there are more than 115,000 jobs being supported. The chart that you see on your screen shows you how this has grown over time. Again, we're only a quarter of the way, really, a little more than that, through this year. So again, we're going to be seeing a record year for jobs supported via regulation crowdfunding. I think the critical thing that I want to point out here is it's been incredibly hard for our government to help support job creation at the most micro level in the United States. And what clearly regulation crowdfunding is showing is that when you engage local investors in supporting local businesses, they're creating local jobs. And that in itself is a local economic stimulus. So that's it. My name is Sherwood Neese. Please subscribe to the channel if you'd like these weekly updates. And we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks. Bye.